The Tuskegee Airmen escorted fighter jets during the Second World War. The iconic group of the first black U.S. military pilots and airmen had the lowest number of losses among such teams. From 1946 until 1949, the unit was based in Central Ohio. Its mere presence inspired one young boy who would go on to fly bomber jets all over the world while serving his country and chart his own path in aviation history. After World War II, the unit of all-black military pilots and airmen ultimately landed at Lockbourne Air Force Base. We now know it as Rickenbacker International Airport. The group, the Tuskegee Airmen, inspired a young Columbus native.
I dearly wanted to fly airplanes, and I had decided that I was going to give it a try, even if I couldn't find anybody that said yes.
David Harris, born in December 1934, graduated from the old university school and earned a bachelor's in education from Ohio State. In 1958, inspired by the airmen who were just miles away, Harris joined the Air Force, becoming a pilot. He spent 6 years serving his country.
I went into B-47s and flew that for a couple of years, and then I went to the biggest thing.
His family says in 1964, 2 days after Harris left the military,
it shouldn't have been me as the first black pilot with a major airline with this nation of ours.
Shelby, he said to you, I was number one, but it should not have been me.
Nobody would take him. And so anyhow, I'll try to wipe the tears away and move forward a little bit.
When you heard your uncle saying that, what went through your mind?
Well, it just speaks to how humble he is. You know, he never really would take the credit for anything.
Shelby Toon, a local historian, interviewed Harris, her great uncle, in June of 2023.
Being from Columbus, I'm just passionate about making sure that Columbus knows what a hero we have in him.
They talked about his days in flight school during the days of segregation and Jim Crow.
Did you get treated differently because you were black?
Some, depending on where you are. I didn't have any problem with the guys that were at my table.
During his time at American Airlines, Harris proved the sky is the limit. He soared, becoming the company's first black captain. Harris also led the Soul Patrol, the airliner's first all-black flight deck crew.
I remember as a kid, people would, be honored to meet him, shake his hand, and he just always had this way of saying thank you, but pushing it back on the Tuskegee Airmen.
In listening to your interview, which I thought was so touching, that you brought him to tears when he was talking about, really I shouldn't have been the first.
Niece Dana Tyler.
There were other black men who should have been the first black commercial airline pilot. Yeah. But between discrimination, racism, right place, right time, it happened for him.
Graduated from Worthington High School.
Opening the door, not only for the people in the cockpit, but also stewardesses, now flight attendants too, of color.
Yeah.
He made such a difference.
Tyler, a veteran journalist, spent a decade working as a TV news reporter and anchor in Columbus. In 1990, she took her talents to New York City, where she worked for 34 years. Why should people know his story?
He's an American hero. He's just a bright light and had such vision from early on.
While attending Ohio State, Harris joined the Air Force ROTC. I sat down with Toon and Tyler inside the building that continues to house the program. How does it feel to be sitting in this building when all indications point to that young man walked these halls while attending Ohio State?
For me, I feel connected in some way to the space because this is a part of his path and how he got to be who he was.
He looked at life, I think, in a very positive way, even though it wasn't always easy.
During the late 50s and early 60s, due to race relations of the day, Harris often encountered challenges finding military housing for his family. He ultimately opted to live off base.
I think it just speaks to his character and how he moved and why people revered him.
And young black men had to make those choices then as well, because there was discrimination and racism and walls, everything from housing to employment. This is something that I always remember, these words, when he started applying for jobs at airlines. I am married, I have 2 children, I am a Negro. It gives me goosebumps, right? And he sent this letter to all of them, airlines at the time, which not as many as now. Rejection, rejection, rejection from all of them.
Then came American Airlines. Harris said during his job interview, he was told, "We don't care if you're blue, white, or chartreuse, as long as you can fly the plane." Decades later, the company honored Harris and fellow co-founders of the Organization of Black Aerospace Professionals. The group creates pathways for others to grow in the field. Captain Harris died in March of this year. He was 89 years old. Just days after his passing, Tyler retired from TV news. During her sign-off, she thanked her coworkers, viewers, and her family.
Including my Uncle David, who...
You had to mention your Uncle David, whose obituary was in the New York Times.
That day, which was my last day. I was so proud to say that and to show him. You know, it was a milestone in my life, but I wanted to give him, and boy, to get that much space in the paper, as he well deserved, I wanted to show everybody.
We have to, you know, preserve these legacies, make sure that these stories are told so that, you know, not just myself and Dana know who they're connected to, but this entire community.
And preserve lessons like what Harris's father, an electrician, modeled for him.
He was really a best that you can be in what he did. My push forward was to be the best I could be.
Captain Harris retired from American Airlines in 1994. He has two daughters. Cammie lives in Springfield, Massachusetts, and Leslie in Metro Atlanta. Dana says as that cultural wall over on East Long Street expands, she hopes an image of her uncle is added to it. And my thanks to the family for sharing that story. It's one we need to know from right here in Columbus.
People need to know, and you can just see the pride on their faces. It's good to see Dana again, too. We love you, Dana. But great story.
Thanks.
And really, this community should be so proud of him.
We should be proud. I feel like I know Uncle David. I kept referring to him as Uncle David.
All right, well, coming up next, vowing to never live inauthentically again.